Have you ever felt that deep, kind of mysterious exhaustion that has absolutely nothing to do with physical work? Well, today, we're going to run a full diagnostic on that exact feeling. We're going to find out what's really draining your energy. So let's start with the big question, the one we're really digging into. Why does your mental battery, which you know was fully charged when you woke up, feel completely dead before you've even had lunch? I mean, this isn't just about being tired. We're talking about a critical system failure that seems to happen day after day after day. So before we can even dream of finding a solution, we have to get really clear on the problem. And the number one symptom is this: finding yourself mentally bankrupt, totally tapped out, long before the day is actually over. So first, let's define the resource you keep losing. What we're talking about here is your cognitive bandwidth. Just think of it as a limited resource, okay? Like a daily budget for your mind. It's the precious fuel you burn for focus, for logical thought, and for willpower. And every single day, you only get a certain amount. Let's imagine it like this. You start each day with a full charge, a bank account with exactly 100 units of mental energy inside. And it's up to you how you spend those credits, on your work, your passions, your goals. But here's the crucial part. Once they're gone, they are gone for the day. There's no rollover. And this brings us to a really critical audit of your life. See, the people in it are either investments that actually grow your energy, or they're like those sneaky background apps on your phone. You know the ones? Silently eating up your resources until, boom, you're left with a dead battery. Today, we're hunting for one of the biggest energy hogs of all. To really see where all that energy is going, we've got to pop the hood and take a look at your brain's operating system. Let's explore the actual hardware that's getting hammered by these hidden processes. Now, the key component here is your working memory. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like the RAM in your computer. It is incredibly fast, super powerful, but it can only handle a few applications, a few open tabs, let's say, at any one time before the entire system just starts to slow down and lag. And this is just a brilliant way to illustrate the difference in relationships, right? A supportive, low-maintenance partner is like a perfectly coded app. It just runs quietly in the background, it supports the whole system, and it actually frees up resources for other things. But a high-maintenance one, whoa, it is constantly crashing, demanding updates, and just sucking up all of your processing power. And when that happens, it's not just some vague feeling of being tired. No. This high-maintenance app specifically targets and drains your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain. And that means your willpower, your ability to plan for the future, your focus. It's all being hijacked, leaving absolutely nothing left over for your own goals. Okay, so we get the system now. We know how it works. So it's time to run a scan. Let's actively start looking for the specific behavioral malware that's causing the system-wide energy drain. All right, the first and maybe the most obvious piece of malware to look for is a behavior pattern we can call the crisis architect. This is somebody who doesn't just stumble into drama. They build it from the ground up. Does this look familiar at all? A week where every single day pops up a new urgent system alert? These crises, they feel so real in the moment, but they are manufactured. And why? Because to them, calm is boring. They thrive on the adrenaline of chaos, and by doing that, they keep your brain locked in survival mode, which means you can never, ever get into growth mode. The dynamic that starts to form is just incredibly taxing. You essentially become their external hard drive. They just offload all of their stress, all their anxiety, all their chaos right onto you. So they can walk away feeling lighter while your own system is now overloaded with all their data. Okay, on to sign number 2. Now this one is much more subtle, much more insidious. It's a kind of psychological malware that actually keeps running even when you're not with the person. Let's call it the open loop attack. This attack is so effective because it exploits a real psychological principle called the Zeigarnik Effect. Basically, our brains are hardwired to obsess over unfinished business, an unresolved issue, an unanswered question. It's like an alarm in your head that you just can't turn off. It demands your attention until it's resolved. And an energy vampire? Oh, they are masters of this. They use vague communication, arguments that never get resolved, the silent treatment, all to create these open loops. A simple, ambiguous text message can launch 1,000 anxious thoughts, forcing your brain to try and solve a puzzle that was designed to have no solution. And that one little open loop triggers this whole cascade of background processes. Your brain starts analyzing subtext, it's running simulations of potential conversations, it's performing emotional diagnostics 24/7. And all of this burns that precious cognitive bandwidth as you desperately try to close a loop that they intentionally left open. All right, we've run the diagnostic, we've identified the malware. Now for the most important part, building your firewall and taking back your mental energy. The fundamental shift you have to make is this. You must start treating your attention and your focus like currency, because that's what they are. It is a valuable, finite resource. So the very first step in protecting it is to start intentionally closing the tabs that are draining you. You can think of this as a tiered approach. Step 1, set firm verbal boundaries. For example, flat out refusing to engage with some manufactured crisis during your workday. If that doesn't work, you escalate to step 2, the gray rock method. You make yourself as boring and non-reactive as a gray rock, so they can't get that emotional charge they're looking for. And if all else fails, step 3 is the final, decisive action. You initiate a complete uninstall. So let's bring this all home. I really want you to let this idea sink in. Your cognitive bandwidth, your ability to think clearly, to focus deeply, it is the single most valuable, most expensive resource you own. Period. Nothing else even comes close. And so the bottom line is this, that energy is the fuel for everything you want to build and create and achieve. It is literally the fuel for your dreams. You just cannot allow someone to siphon it off just to keep their own personal chaos engine running. And that leaves us with one last really actionable question. I want you to look at your own life, at your own mental operating system, and just ask yourself this. What background app, big or small, are you going to choose to close today?